ask you your full name one more time?
Yes, my name is Charles Alton Lemon.
Okay, and who are you named after?
My middle name was named after my father, George Alton Lemon. And I think my name Charles, there was an Uncle Charles.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's where mom and dad got my name, came up with
Okay.
Charles or not. Never asked and they never told me, so I don't know.
Okay. What is your birth date?
July the 18th, 1934.
34. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents, what were your parents' names?
My mother's name was Margaret Elizabeth Hill, maiden name, and my dad's name was Charles Alton Lemon.
Okay.
It was George Alton Lemon.
Lemon.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I love that. That's wonderful. How many siblings did you have?
I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers. So there were 6 kids in our family.
Okay.
I made the 3rd son.
Okay.
And I was the youngest of the 3 sons. Donnie was the oldest.
Okay.
Jimmy was in the middle, and then Charlie came along next.
I see.
My sister Jane was the oldest of our kids, and then my sister Joy was born after me, and then Sister Peggy came up last, unexpectedly.
What a wonderful surprise, right?
Yeah, it was. It was a great surprise. She's a super gal. We were blessed with I was blessed with some great brothers and sisters.
I think they were pretty lucky too.
Yeah.
There was something. So you were the 3rd brother. Did your parents have trouble remembering your name sometimes?
They did. In fact, I thought my name was Donnie Jimmy Charles for a while because my mother that's what she would start to say. She'd forget which one of us she was calling. Donnie Jimmy Charles. Donnie Jimmy Charles.
She'd get there though.
Finally got to me, and so it worked out all right. But that was a story that went on and on and on in the family.
I've heard that one a few times. I love that so much. Do you happen to know where you were born? Were you born in a hospital?
No, I was born at home.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and that was in Plainville.
In Plainville,
right in
Ohio?
the little Plainville, Ohio,
okay.
in a little house, 4-room house that we lived in for some time until, let's see, Joy was born in a hospital, and so was Peggy. Okay. In the Marymount Hospital.
Okay.
But the rest of us were all born at home.
I see. So you wouldn't remember babies being born at home because you said Joy was born at a hospital.
Yes.
Okay. See, do you remember like hearing any details about your birth that are special?
My birth?
Yeah.
One of the things was it was the hottest day that it had ever been. On that day, on July the 18th.
Oh boy.
It was the hottest day on record. And
wow.
I think that record probably still stands today. I'm not sure.
We're going to have to look that up. That is an interesting fact. That's really neat.
Oh, and then, so I guess I've always thought about what my mother must have gone through at that point in time with everything being such, because there's no air conditioning at that time.
Man.
We didn't have air conditioning, until we were probably in high school.
Okay.
Because my dad, he couldn't afford it with six kids.
Right.
It was all he could do to keep bread on the table and keep everything, all the bills paid.
Absolutely. So, I can imagine.
But my dad worked for the Hamilton County Engineers.
Okay.
He was a foreman of a crew, and they did a lot of road repair. And in addition to that, on Saturdays, he would often work on his own because he did blacktopping work, put in blacktop driveways for people. And one interesting thing was there was a first base baseball player named Ted Kluszewski for the Cincinnati Reds. And Ted was a big guy with arms that were as big as my leg. Okay. And so it was neat that I got to spent some time with him. Got to see him and meet him. And Dad took me to see him and meet him.
Oh, that's
So that was
very neat.
special.
That is special. I love that.
But baseball was a softball and baseball was. We grew up in the schoolyard right across the street from our home, and we spent the day playing ball. My two brothers and I, and some of the kids, the neighborhood kids, we would play ball practically all day until supper time, and Mom would call us in for dinner. If it rained, we would be on the neighbor's porch. The Thomases had a porch that was covered, so it was a nice big area. So we would sit on the porch and play Monopoly if it was raining and we couldn't play ball. So
that sounds lovely.
We had the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that sounds like it. So do you remember? I was actually going to ask you about I was going to ask you about the day to day. So you just answered that for me already. That's
the day to
day, kind of at home with your mom, if you remember.
It would be
playing out.
I guess we were very fortunate that we had a loving family. Mommy was she was a special gal, and everybody loved her. Her name was Margaret, but they called her Dottie. And I don't know how that started with her. My dad, he called her Dot. But she was, everybody loved her because she was such a loving person. So of course that's something that we had, which is a blessing for us kids, that we learned how to love real early. And so it was important. Our grandfather both lived close. Poppy Hill was a superintendent of schools, and he and Grandma Hill lived in Plainville. Pop Lemon, my dad's father, and my grandmother both lived up on the hill from us. And the one thing about Grandma Lemon that was always important to me was that she would always bake a cake. And I wanted her to cut the cake to give me a piece, because she always cut the biggest piece. So, anyway.
I can relate to that.
We were blessed in our growing up years, it was super.
That's wonderful. So you remember your grandparents as being warm and loving.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, and I remember that when Joy was born, one neat, cute thing, I guess, they told me afterwards, is that Janie asked, when we went in to go in to see Joy after she was born, I asked Janie, I said, "Do you want to keep her, Jane?" And she said, "Yes, I want to keep her." So that was neat.
That's special. Yeah. Well, thank goodness she said yes.
Yeah, she was it was a exciting time, because we got to be there right after Joy was born. Peggy was born though in a hospital. I think maybe I said Joy was, but she wasn't. She was born at home.
Oh,
but Peggy was born in Marymount Hospital.
So you were home when Mommy had Joy.
Yeah. At that time, the kids weren't born in hospitals; they were born at home, right? Unless there was a problem,
right?
And but it was a long enough time when Peggy was born that's when they weren't born at home anymore, unless the family couldn't afford to go to a hospital.
I see. Okay. Do you remember ever getting in trouble? No.
Yeah, there was a farmer that lived up the street from us, up Walton Creek Road. His name was Mr. Jenny. Okay. And Mr. Jenny he had fields of corn that he harvested that were on another part, not up by his home. He would have to take his wagon and bring the corn from down on Wooster Pike and up Walton Creek Road to go up to his home, which was up from ours and right past the schoolyard and up on the right side and by the creek. He had a bridge that you had to go over to get into his house. And so he had a barn, but it was on the other side of the road. And the barn that he had, uh, we used to follow him when we were growing up. We would follow him in his wagon with the corn, and he would, after we would hide until he got past us. Then we would run around the back of and pull corn off of his wagon, and have corn. Then later on we would shuck the corn, and there were two ladies, Minnie and Ida Peppercorn, that lived right next to the church, and we were always pestering Minnie and Ida, and we would take the corn and throw it on their porch. And one time that Ida came out, Ida and Minnie came out to holler at us, and Ida told Minnie, he said, "Minnie, go get my shotgun." And
Oh.
she never had a shotgun, but we thought she did. So anyway, we got out of there pretty quick, and we didn't give her any more problem.
I can imagine that would have done the trick. Oh my goodness, that's too funny. Did you enjoy going to school when you were a boy?
Yes.
You did. Do you
Yeah.
remember like what your favorite kind of thing was to learn?
Well, we had in our school we had 2 levels.
Okay.
And the first, second, and third grade was on the first level. Then the fourth, fifth, and sixth grade was on the upper level. And then you had to go to Marymount High School for junior high school.
Okay.
So my teacher's name was Miss Satchel. And I just loved Miss Satchel. She was the sweetest lady. So she taught me, between her and Mommy, taught me all about love. So, you know, she was just a special person. The other lady was named Mrs. Reinhardt. She was the principal. She was the teacher of 4th, 5th, and 6th, but she was also the principal of the school. And so if you got called up to the principal's office, you were in trouble. And I don't think I've ever gotten in trouble enough to be called up there. But I was up there. I was up there for whatever reason. I'm not even sure what it was. But anyway, Miss Satchel liked me. I was kind of the teacher's pet.
Okay.
And so that was great.
That is wonderful. It's wonderful when you are when a child is able to have a teacher that's nurturing as well, because as a parent, you're sending them into their care for such a long period of their day, and you hope that their teacher can give them that kindness and that love. So that's wonderful that you had that in your teacher.
Made a big difference. You're right.
Yeah,
it was a blessing.
Do you happen to remember who your first friend was?
I remember
your first best friend.
Oh.
You mentioned
my first best friend was probably my cousin Dave.
Okay.
He was my cousin, but he was also a good friend. In school, in the junior high school, I got picked on a lot because I was very small. I weighed 100 pounds, I think, and so I had 2 boys that picked on me all the time. One of them was a boy named Ronald Herman. His dad owned Dodo's Bar, and Ronnie was one of 3 boys, and for some reason he chose me to pick on. So one day we were down on the corner in front of the grocery store, and he was really just picking on me and twisted my arm and things like that. And I finally had enough of it, and I started laying into him, and I hit him with everything I could hit him with. Surprised him because I'd never done that before, and he didn't know what to do. Anyway, never bothered me again. So that was good.
Good. Glad he left you alone after that.
Yeah.
Do you have a perspective on that? Like people who were picking on people. You, like, now that you've lived so long, obviously you can kind of, do you have a perspective on, like,
I'm sorry, ask me the question.
I'm just wondering if that gave you like a different perspective, having being someone who was getting picked on. You tend to just, you live your life very with a lot of kindness and acceptance, and I've never seen you really be unkind ever. And
Yeah,
I just wonder if you.
I guess it really surprised me that I didn't meet anybody like that for a long while.
Yeah.
It wasn't until there was two boys that picked on me. One was him, and then there was another boy named Miller. I think his name was anyway, and that was when I was in the first in senior and a junior in no, a freshman in high school.
Okay.
And so he was. I must have looked like I needed to be picked on, I guess, because those
someone
two guys.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was the other time that they were. Now we call them bullies.
Right.
Back then, they got away with it,
Yeah.
and so. But
at home, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
At home, you had your two brothers, and you have mentioned that at home there was a lot of love.
Yes.
And so maybe were your brothers also kind and gentle with you, or were
they were? My brothers took care of me.
That's wonderful.
Watched out for me, especially my older brother Don, and he was Don was the athlete of the three boys, the best athlete. We all, were played baseball and softball at that point in time, but Don was a great athlete. He could have played semi-pro ball if he wanted to, but he didn't want to be away from the family, which he would have had to travel. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to do that, so he missed out on that. But it was the right thing at the time.
Yeah. I was wondering how old were you when you got your first job?
My first job was going to the store for a lady that lived next door, Miss McCullum. She would ask me to go to the grocery store and get a loaf of bread for her, or whatever it might be, and she would give me a dime. Okay. And that was my first job. Then I worked at a grocery store, a real small grocery store that was up on the corner of Wooster Pike, and the lady there had me bag groceries for people that would come to buy them, and then I would carry them to their car or to their wagon, whatever they had to get back home. And that was my first two jobs. Then I worked at a company. At that time, it was the Meyer Company. Later, it was called Eastern Hills Coal and Supply. It was a family that owned two locations, one in Madera, George Meyer Company, and then the one in Plainville. They ended up changing to Eastern Hills Coal and Supply. And that was, the first time that I worked for a company. And I just did a lot of things. I was by that time, I was probably 14, 15 years old. So I was involved in unloading and loading trucks, going to get things and loading them for people in their car. And then later on, I was doing sales. Then I became a salesman for the company as I got older, and waited on customers. We had an older fella named Mr. Fleming that worked. He was a very old gentleman, and he worked for the company bagging nails in paper bags, which is the way you did it then. You didn't have a box of the nails. He had to bag 1 pound bags of nails and 5 pound bags of nails. Ghoulie is what we called him. But anyway, I worked for that company when I was very young, and continued to work for them until I was in high school. And then even when I went to the service and came back, I went to work for the company again. Okay. And I ended up, I had majored in accounting, And so when I came back, I was keeping the books for the company, and also did work. The George Meyer Company in Madeira asked me to come up and help out up there. So I worked in both. I went back and forth on the accounting work for both stores.
Okay. And so when you did enlist in the Coast Guard, what and where did you hear about it, and what kind of encouraged you?
The Coast Guard, I was very fortunate. When I was when we were in high school, there was a commander from the Coast Guard that came to our high school, talked to the seniors, and there were about 7 of us boys there that all thought we liked what he had to say.
Hmm.
And the Coast Guard was a small branch of the armed services, and not as important as the Marines and the Army, at least at that point in time. And so we all joined the Coast Guard. The reserves go to a meeting every Tuesday. We would go to meetings, and then we went to New Orleans for 2 weeks of training, and also then we took basic training at Cape May, New Jersey, and I took radar training in Groton, Connecticut, and became a second-class radarman in the Coast Guard. And so it was a good decision. I enjoyed it. I was very fortunate. Our company was our ship was honored to escort the Eagle, which was a cadet training vessel, 3-masted schooner, and we escorted at the Eagle. We escorted the Eagle to Europe, to first Santander, Spain, then Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and Rotterdam, Germany.
Wow.
And so I got to see those countries, and I got to enjoy Amsterdam's food, and I thought it was the best food I'd ever eaten. So, and it was very good. So it was very good duty. We went on what was called a short cruise to Bermuda first, and my job was in the radar shack was to plot airplanes coming back and forth, and we would talk to the folks that were flying over. USO plane. There was one USO plane that flew over, and I was on duty like 4 to 8 the one morning, and this sweet voice came over the line and it says, "Hi guys, how you doing down there?" And it was a USO plane, and one of the gals just was having fun and talked to us on the radio phone.
Oh.
And I got to talk to her because I was the only one up at that time.
Oh my goodness.
Except the captain. Well, the captain, of course, was on the bridge.
Okay.
But anyway, the one other story I'll tell you about being on the ship was that we had a coffee pot, one of the drip kind where they fix it on the top and it drips through.
Yes.
And we made coffee every day and at night, and the captain would always come back to get a cup of coffee because it was the only coffee made at that point in time. And the one time we were off near the coast of Newfoundland, and it was snowing very, very heavily, and our evaporators broke down on our ship, which means that we didn't have any fresh water. So we didn't have any fresh water to fix coffee. So it snowed so much that we had 10 or 12 inches of snow out on the ship on the side. So I went out. I had a great idea. I went out and thought that I would go out and get snow and bring it in and put it in there, and it would all melt down. I kept bringing it in until it had enough to make a pot of coffee. And so I had a pot of coffee made. We called the captain down for the first cup of coffee. And when he came down and I started to pour it to him, it just came out as slime.
Oh no.
And I mean, I was so worried of what the captain would say, but he started laughing, so we all started laughing. It was Very unexpected. We all learned a lesson. You don't make coffee out of salt water.
And with all of that effort, though, to
yeah,
melt down the snow.
it was a. We talked about it for a long time. Anyway,
good intentions.
that was one of the experiences on the ship.
How long were you in the Coast Guard?
I was then on active duty. I was on for 6 years.
Okay.
As a reserve, but 2 of those years I went on active duty.
Okay.
And I went on active duty because at that time I was dating a girl, and we were very serious. Mm-hmm. And we were going to plan on getting married, but we decided that I needed to get my 2 years, because everybody had to spend time in the service. Men did. Okay. And so I wanted to get that out of the way so I could go to college and we could get married and so on. And so that's what I did. I went on active duty. And once I got back home, and I'll tell you that it was one of the times we were docked, the ship docked, and we had a 3-day pass in New York, in Staten Island in New York, which is where our ship docked. And that we took time. Another guy from Cincinnati and myself decided that we were going to go home. Mm-hmm. So we drove from Staten Island all the way home. It took us about 10 or 12 hours to get home. And so I had the whole day, and I was going to go to Shirley to see her. And I was all excited because it was right before Christmas, and I was thought that would be good. And I had already given her a ring. And so I was going to go visit her. And I went, knocked on the door. Her mother came to the door and greeted me, just said hi, disappeared. And then Shirley was sitting on the couch, and I went over to see her, and she handed me her ring. So she had met someone else, which was hard at the time, but it was a blessing at the time that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. But the other funny thing about it, when I went back to the ship and the guys found out that she gave me back the ring, they staged a watch over me because they thought I was going to jump over the side of the ship.
Oh my goodness.
But I wasn't that stupid. So
nobody can make you that.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness. Yes, thank goodness you didn't. And thank goodness
I told you more than you needed to know, probably.
No, I like that story.
Okay.
You can never tell me too much.
Okay.
That's what we're here for. Do you remember, so you had to go to the service at that time, every boy did. Were your brothers in the service as well? My
brother Donnie was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And he was staged in Bremerhaven, Germany. Mm-hmm. And my brother Jim was in the Army, and he was down in Fort Knox, I think it was, or another. I don't remember the name of it. There was another. He spent time on 2 different places. When he was in the Army, we went. My mom and Dad and I went down to visit him, mm-hmm. and got to watch him. They were drilling out there. But when I think about that, it reminds me that when I was in the Coast Guard, I was company commander of our unit, like 40 guys in my company, and I would have to bring them to attention and formation for meals. We would have to march, get in formation, and march to the mess hall, and then just do the same thing coming back to our barracks. Okay. And so I had to get them all in line and take them all to the mess hall, which was fine. There was one fellow from Florida that didn't appreciate it because he thought he should have been the guy that had that position. But anyway, I was very fortunate that and the captain our captain was a very military person. He would walk, man, like you see the soldier at the in the what's it called in Washington D.C.
Yes.
At the unknown soldier,
yes,
the 2 million.
Yep.
Yeah, that
Just very by the book, very structured.
Yeah, they're the best of the best, and
Yeah.
he was like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but not that he was the best, but he was. I liked the way he handled himself, so I learned a lot.
It seems like a trend throughout your life is having people, for lack of a better word, like in charge of you, that you were able to look up to and who were kind to you and treated you with respect.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why I was chosen to be company commander. I don't know why that I was very fortunate, but that I don't have any time that I remember where I was mistreated. So I was very fortunate.
Yeah. Do you happen to remember how your parents reacted to all of you boys being in the service? Do you remember that at all?
I remember that my mom, especially, it was hard on her for all of us to be gone, but she was also very proud of us, as was my dad, that we all did serve, and so, of course, my mom worried a lot about each one of us, and so it was finally got home. She didn't have to worry about that anymore. So, and she had to worry about the other things. And one of us would get hurt on the job or whatever.
Right. There seems to always be something for parents to worry about. It seems like there's always something to worry about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, she had plenty with us kids, 3 boys, and especially.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about your childhood or early life that comes to mind that you'd like to?
One thing that I didn't mention is that Donnie, Jimmy, and myself, we all 3 had red hair, and so anybody with red hair got in trouble. They would know it was the Lemon boys.
Oh.
And one thing about Mr. Jenny that I didn't tell you about, that he lived across the street, and he had that we threw corn off his. One time we were up at his house, up by his house, and we got into his corn crib. Did I tell you that yet?
No.
We got into his corn crib, and we were going to take some of the corn and take it home, and so. And then Mr. Jenny started coming across the street. My 2 brothers got out of the door quickly, and I didn't. And the next thing I saw was Mr. Jenny, who was a big man. He's probably 6'4", and he must have weighed 300 pounds because he's the biggest man I'd seen. And he took the whole door. I mean, he was just that. So
there was nowhere to go.
I was scared. I had no place to go. I couldn't even crawl between his legs.
Oh no!
So that was one lesson I learned.
I see. Do you remember how he reacted? Did he yell at you?
He didn't. He was gruff for a while, but then he didn't. He let me. He said, "You go home, Charlie." So.
Okay. Oh. Okay. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little. Who would you consider the love of your life?
The love of my life? Mm-hmm.
If you need a break, you tell me. We can take.
Pardon?
We can take a break if you need a break.
Oh, okay. I'm okay. Of course, my mother was as I said, a special lady. But as far as people go, I thought Shirley was the love of my life, but that didn't work. And then that, as I say, that was the best thing that happened to me. Because then I met Peggy, and she worked for me at Eastern Hills Coal and Supply. Okay. She ended up being my secretary, and so I would. She would go over to lunch across the street at the Humpty Dumpty, and one of my friends there, one of the guys that worked with me, said, "Charlie, going over to lunch. Take my lunch hour and going over lunch." So I would go over and have lunch with Peggy. Make a long story short, that we had lunch more often and more often, and we ended up start dating, um, and we were married for 66 years. So I was very fortunate.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Could you tell us her whole name, her full name?
Pardon?
Could you tell us her full name?
Have we?
Peggy
Peggy Ann Shannon.
Shannon. And that's
Peggy Ann Shannon.
the girl you met.
Yes.
How do you remember when you met her? Like the first day? You said she worked for you.
When she worked
when
for
you
me?
met Gran. Do you remember the first day you met her?
I met her. She would walk home from school.
Okay.
And I would see her walking home from school, and a couple other guys noticed her as well. And so then when she started working for me, I, we started spending more and more time together.
Yeah.
And so that's where it all blossomed up and started.
Well, do you remember when you asked her to marry you?
How? Yeah, it was when? Well, I can't remember the day, but I remember going and asking her parents for permission, and her dad was Dick Shannon, and he was a stocky man, but he was not upset, and nor was his mother. They were both happy. They liked me, so I was fortunate there that they didn't have any problem at all. In fact, they thought that it was a great thing that we were getting married.
That's wonderful. I remember a story about hearing them coming when you were dating. Was Gran's mom? You could hear her footsteps when you were together, like in the living room. Is that a story that I remember?
When we were together
when you, if you were spending time together in the living room and you could hear the footsteps.
Oh, there was a grandmother.
Okay.
That was a grandmother. Peggy's mom and dad lived with her grandmother and her great grandmother and their grandmother.
I see.
And her great grandmother was the one who owned the house, and her name. Anyway, she owned a plant farm right next door to the house that they lived in. And she would raise all kinds of plants and get them to the point where then she could sell them as starter plants for people. And she had all kind of bins out there where she would plant them and work. So the first thing that Peg done, one of her first jobs was helping her grandmother go out and plant things at the plant farm. And so that was, she was just a neat old lady that you would love. The picture of her is over there on the wall. That's Grandma Waite. And
Grandma what?
Grandma Waite, Waite.
Okay.
And her grandmother, that's her great grandmother. Her grandmother's name was Cutler. Okay. And she was not anything like her mother. She just wasn't as pleasant. She was okay, but she just wasn't as pleasant as Grandma Waite. So we were fortunate with Peg's upbringing. Her dad was a disciplinarian, as my dad was. And I'll tell you one quick thing about visiting. One time, the kids, we would go visit Peg's mom and dad, Dick and Evelyn. On Sundays we would go visit both my mom and dad and them. We'd go out to visit them, and they were always glad when we went back to Grandma and Grandpa Lemon's, because they didn't have anything to do at Grandma and Grandpa Shannon. there was nothing for them to do because there was a pool table downstairs and it was off limits to the kids. So they couldn't do that or anything. So they were very bored all the time. But the one time that I'll tell you about was that at the little church down in Plainville, at the side of the church by the hill that came down from my grandma and grandpa Lemon's house, there were garter snakes. And these garter snakes, we would always go over as kids and we would pick them up and wrap them around our wrists and things like that. And so we decided we was going to take one with us to Grandma and Grandpa Shannon and wanted to show it to Grandpa Shannon. So I think it was Scott. He was the oldest, so he probably had the snake. And when we got there, the kids were all excited about showing Grandma and Grandpa the snake. And Scott went up and said, "Hey, Grandpa, we've got one to show you our snake." And Grandpa Shannon had a very, his vocabulary wasn't very nice. And so we got some words that the kids should never have heard.
Oh, no.
and he was very upset, and he's deathly afraid of snakes.
Oh.
And we did not know that.
Oh.
So you can imagine how angry he was and how he would just, his expression would just like that. So
people tend
so
to
that
get...
was, so we left.
Oh,
We didn't even stay at Grandma and Grandpa.
oh,
We
you
left.
had to go.
The kids didn't know what to do. So we just
Oh.
left, and it was a while before we went back. But he was over it. You know, it was
Right.
one of those things we had no clue, and he forgot about it, so it worked out okay.
Oh my goodness. I was wondering if you have any memories of your wedding day that are anything specific.
Well, we were married by a pastor. We didn't have a big wedding. Peg and I were married by a pastor in Norwood, Ohio, and my mom. I think when my mom and dad were the only two people that were there, and we had an apartment upstairs, and that's where we lived there for a few years. Then we had another apartment, and it was we were probably had been married maybe 2 years, and I bought a little house down in Plainville. It was a little 2-bedroom home, and that's when the kids were born. We had Megan wasn't born yet, so it was only Scott and Kathy and Rich and Mike at that point in time. And I think all 4 of them were born there. Yeah.
At the house in Plain.
Pardon?
At the house in Plainfield.
Yeah, in Plainville.
Plainville.
Yeah. Plainville.
Plainville, yeah. Ohio. Yeah. Okay, and that was where you were raised also?
That was first.
Where you were raised.
That's where we grew up.
Okay.
That was right across the street from Plainville grade school.
Okay, that's
in the
right.
schoolyard.
That's right.
It was right down the hill from my grandma and grandpa Lemon's house. That's the little 4-room house that all of us were in. So you can imagine that I remember one time my brother Jimmy got into trouble. He and my cousin Bobby were at the grade school one day in the summer when it was closed. But my grandfather was the custodian. Papa Lemon was the custodian at the school. So he was working one day, and Jimmy and my cousin Bobby, the 2 of them went to the schoolhouse, and they found the door was open, and so they went in. My grandfather didn't know they were in there. They got up to the principal's office and got into her desk drawer, and she had a little milk bunny container, and they found this bunch of change there. So they took this change, they put it in their pockets, and instead of going somewhere and spending it, the first thing they did was they went up to Grandma Lemon's house, and they had all this change in their hand. And look, Grandma, do you need anything? We can buy it for you.
Oh.
And so that's when they got caught. My cousin Bobby got scolded by my Uncle Leroy, but my brother Jimmy got a spanking that he never forgot. My dad was not happy at all and taught us all a lesson at that point in time. My brother Donnie and I were fortunate that we learned that lesson, but we not that we would ever do it anyway, but we knew that we better not, because Jimmy got a spanking that lasted. But it was with paddle. It wasn't just a hand spanking. So it was a pretty severe spanking.
Yeah, that will teach you. You'll remember that for sure.
Very much so.
When did you have your first child? Was that Scott?
Scott was our first child, and
remember how old you were?
Oh boy, probably 20.
20?
I was probably 20.
Mm-hmm.
Peggy would have been probably 17 at the time.
Wow.
So that's when we were 17 and 20 when we were married.
Do you remember the feeling of going from just you and Peggy, or you and Gran, to being mom and dad?
Do I remember?
How did it feel to become a parent? Were you excited, or were you?
We were very excited. And of course I was very proud because he was a son. And so as the custom was at that time, that you smoked a cigar to celebrate your son's birth.
Yeah.
So I got a cigar and I smoked this cigar and got so sick. It helped because I've never smoked since. That's the last time I had any kind of tobacco. I didn't chew tobacco. My grandfather did, but I never tried that. But I did try a cigar, and that was I learned a good lesson early.
When your kids were small, what was the life like in the Lemon household?
It was a very loving household, and very busy, and very hectic with 6 kids. My dad worked very hard, and my mom took care of all of us. And we were very poor. We didn't have a lot of money, but we always had some kind of food on the table. We had a lot of potatoes, a lot of potato soup. Or didn't have meat very often for a long time, except on special occasions. We would have maybe some chicken. So I one of the problems I was having, as I mentioned earlier, I was very small, and the principal that I've told you about, when she called me in her office one time and wanted to know what I ate. What do you eat? So I told her, it wasn't that much, meat and potatoes, I guess. She told me I had to eat peanut butter. She says, I want you to get some peanut butter. I want you to eat peanut butter every day. And so my mom and Dad got some peanut butter for me. And that was one lesson I learned, and I've eaten it ever since. So.
And how many kids did you have? You and Peggy? How many?
Peggy and I, we had 3 boys and 3 girls. We had Scott and Kathy were the oldest, and then Richley and Michael, and 3 boys and 2 girls. Okay. We had 5 kids, and then Megan was the youngest. It was Rich and Mike were the 2 that we had no problem at all with. Scott and Kathy. They were the best kids you'd ever want. They never gave us any trouble. But it was a different story with Rich and Mike. They were two, and the two of them seemed to get into trouble all the time. But and then Megan came along, and she was she was spoiled. So the rest of the kids thought so.
She had a lot of people to love on her.
Pardon?
She had a lot of people to give her attention and love her.
Oh, she did. That's right. And she was. I think it was just a good family relationship, and nobody. Kathy kind of felt that Megan was. She was the one that felt that Megan was spoiled, because Kathy was never. We didn't have the things when Kathy was born that we had when Megan was there. Things had changed, and we had more money at that point in time, so we could have different kind of food and special days and so on.
Yes.
We would take a Sunday afternoon ride all the time, and that was the thing that we did as a family. And what we would do is we go, and there were places that the kids wanted to go, that we would go to these different places, but then we would chant, trying to think that there was an ice cream store called Hall's, and then we sometimes putt-putt. We would go putt-putt on a little small course there, and then there was a Dairy Queen. So the chant was Hall's, putt-putt, Dairy Queen. Hall's, putt-putt, Dairy. So they would keep that up until we did go. But that was kind of a special thing.
That is a special thing.
Yeah.
I like hearing those stories. Were you working? Where were you working at that time when the kids were smaller? What was your job?
When the kids were smaller, I was working. So Peg did the disciplining primarily, and her job was to, take care of the family and to help the kids at school. I was working, I was working 40 hours a week or more at the Eastern Hills Coal and Supply, and then I also was going to evening college at UC. This was after I got out of the service, of course, because that's when we weren't married until I got out of the service. And so when I got out, I was on a veterans program, and we could go to class with the co-op students at University of Cincinnati. And so I did that, and I started out on a veterans program where we went during the day, but then as the family needs grew, I ended up switching to evening college, and ended up driving every week down to the University of Cincinnati for evening college. Another a good friend, Bob and Elaine Ewers, Bob and I would always drive together down to college. So I finally got my degree from University of Cincinnati with a major in accounting, commerce degree.
Right. And when you moved out of your house, your 2-bedroom in Plainville, where did you move?
Where did
when you moved from your first home, where did you go next?
Oh, we lived in apartments. Okay. Then we bought this little house, this four-room house in Plainville that was owned by the Peppercorns, by another family of the Peppercorns I mentioned, that had a big house, stone house next door. They had built this house when they wanted to downsize, and then they both passed away. And so we ended up buying the little 2-bedroom, 4-room house with 2 bedrooms, and that was our first home.
Let's see. Do you remember kind of the things that were stressful at that time in your life as a parent, as a parent with young children?
Um, I don't I don't feel I don't remember feeling stressful at all
Yeah.
in raising the kids. Um, Peg Peg and I both had a role to play, and I knew that the kids were well cared for, and that we both did our best to treat them uh, the way they needed to be treated, to be a good examples for them.
Mm.
And so we never really, there was never, I don't remember a stressful time. It
That's,
was, it was, I mean, we worked hard to make sure that things were, that we had what we needed and that the kids had what they needed.
mm,
Uh, but we were blessed that it seemed like that everything was there when we needed it. So
that's lovely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was, we were very fortunate.
What would you say was the most important thing to you that you instill in your children? Like if I one thing that mattered the most to you about them.
The first thing is to be loving, to love everybody, not just your mom and dad and your siblings, but anybody that you would meet, and to be honest. And as I mentioned earlier, I was uh, taught how important that was, and so we wanted our kids to be honest as well. And we were very fortunate there that our the kids were very good. Um, I mean, we might have had uh, disagreements at time, um, but we always said if we had a problem, we tried to sit down uh, and talk about it as a family. The one time that I remember, um, I was when I was a lay pastor at a little church in North Salem, Ohio, and I guess I remember uh, the one time that uh, I'd been there like for 5 years or something like that. We would, uh, I would come to North Salem and I would preach on Sundays, and then we had Peg would had a youth group of the kids. Of course, most of the kids were our kids in the youth group, maybe three or four from the folks that lived there. But we uh, it was just a good learning experience. That went on for about 5 years, I guess. And the thing that stopped it was that one day we were at home and Megan uh, got upset and said, "I hate Saturday." And we thought we got to sit down and talk about this. So we sit down as a family, and what Megan said is that I hate Saturdays because we don't have anything to do. I was busy preparing a sermon for Sunday. Peg was busy after that writing or typing my sermon for me so that I would have my notes for the next day. And so Saturdays was not a fun day for the kid. And so when that happened, that was, well, late in the time that I was at the church. That's when I decided it was time to spend more time with the family, and that's what I did. That's when I stopped, and one of the pastors from Second Church in Cambridge ended up coming out and also taking over at North Salem when I left. But it was a great experience while I was there. We were accepted by the folks, and the matriarch. Just one quick thing: the matriarch her name was Rissa Matthews, and Rissa was a very stern lady, and the kids were kind of afraid of her. And Rissa um, was the time that I'll back up. It was a bicentennial, and all the men started growing beards. So I grew a beard, and they all thought I looked like what the um, oh
Colonel Sanders?
who?
Colonel Sanders? Is that
Colonel Sanders.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be right there.
Oh,
They all
you
thought I
got a
looked
lot
like
up there.
Colonel Sanders because I had a beard, and they thought I looked just like him. They wanted me to in our contest. But anyway, the thing I started to bring up about Rissa is that the first time when I was there at the church, that she came out after when I was greeting folks as they left, and I was concerned about Rissa and what she would think of my beard. So instead of being upset, she took her hand and stroked my beard, and she said, "I think it's cute."
Oh,
So anyway,
I like that story.
yeah.
This is all about you telling stories, so you don't have to make anything short or quick. It can
Okay.
be just whatever you want to talk about. I'm just here to listen.
Okay. Well,
Would you like to get a drink of water? Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
You let me know because we're just
Okay.
talking.
All right.
I was kind of wondering how old you are, or how old you were when you were preaching at North Salem.
I was probably 20 years old
Okay.
when I was doing that. Yeah, it's probably 20 or 21.
Okay.
Um,
And you continued to kind of visit for quite a while, right? I think I've been there.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would go out and visit whenever we got a chance because it was good to see the folks. And we had a reunion a couple different times. And they, of course, asked the prior pastors to come and be there. And there was probably me and two other men that were still around to be able to come. And so that was kind of special. But lately, I don't think that hasn't happened for a couple of years because I think the church was so small that it probably ended up closing up. And I don't know for sure, but I think that's probably what happened.
I see. It seems like you've had a close relationship with God for a very long time, and that seems like an important part of your life.
It was a very important part of my life. Yeah, I committed my life and accepted Christ as my Savior at the little church in Plainville when I was probably 16 years old, and we had two men. We had Mr. Payne was our Sunday school teacher, and Lowell Whitaker was a teacher as well, and he was pretty. He led the singing. Mr. Payne played the violin for the service, and Lowell Whitaker had a great voice, and he was singing. And the one song that he sang was oh gosh, he lives. I know he lives within my heart. And when he sang that, it was very special. So music was very important to us, and our kids started singing together, and we sang at a couple of we sang for a couple of different events in addition to church, which was great. Scott ended up forming a group called the Lemon Ups, and that was some of his friends from. I guess he's probably in high school by that time, and he formed that group, and they sang at different churches. So that was special as well.
That is special. Are there any specific, like, little stories that jump out at you about any of your kids? Would you like to go one by one, or just kind of however comes out.
Well, yeah, with I guess the one thing about, as I mentioned earlier, Scott and Kathy were never in trouble at all. And Kathy tried to be sure that the other kids, that she tried to tell them in no uncertain terms what to do and not to do, maybe. Uh, and Scott was really very talented in terms of his voice, and played the trumpet. And in fact, the one thing about Kathy, she played the cornet. And the one thing that I'll mention about her is that um, she had we ended when she was in college. Uh, we noticed that she had times as kind of a spell when she was not with us for a while. She would just be there and not saying anything, and so we knew something was going on. Anyway, we ended up taking her to Riverside Hospital. They found out that she had cancer, and she had cancer in the back of her brain, and there were times when she would have this period where she would just not know what was going on. And the thing I was going to tell you about that started me thinking about that was that she used to sing or she used to play in the school band, and they would march. And one time they were marching, and the band turned to the right, and Kathy at that time, she wasn't aware, but she continued straight on all by herself until I, got to her to help her understand that they were going a different direction. I don't know even how we handled that at that time, but that was so. All the kids were very musical inclined. They all had. Megan had a soprano voice in college, and she got a scholarship in voice to go to Heidelberg College. Scott went to Pikeville College in Kentucky. Ritchie started and spent, I think, 1 year at Kent State, or part of a year, but it didn't. And Michael didn't want any part of any more schooling. And but of course Megan then went to Heidelberg, and so we were fortunate. The kids were all musically inclined, and still are. Mm-hmm. I want them to someday sing together. One of the things that if there's any services when I'm gone, that's what they're supposed to do. Whether they'll be able to or not, I don't know.
Right. I'll remember that.
Okay.
I'm on it.
And at that point in time, what I thought, by that time there may be other parts of the family, because we're blessed with a lot of great voices in our family. You and the rest, and all the gals have nice voices, so it might be a family event. Okay.
Do you happen to do you remember how old you were when you had your first grandchild? Like that would be Adam.
It would be Adam.
Or you don't even have to remember your age, but do you remember the feeling? Were you expecting it? Were you?
We were very excited about it. Very proud of all of our kids when they were born, but that was the first one, so that it's like I didn't smoke any cigars though when Adam was born.
You learned your lesson.
That's right. Once it was enough for me. I don't know whether Mike did or not, but anyway, we had some. We are blessed with some great grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Right.
So
I'm kind of curious what you might like everyone, your grandchildren, your children, your great-grandchildren. What's the most important thing to you that they remember about you and about Gran? Those can be two different questions, but about you, what would you like them to kind of carry in their heart and remember about you?
That I love them. That's probably the most important thing. That they know that they were loved.
From my perspective, you've done an excellent job at.
Pardon?
From my perspective, you've done an excellent job at making sure we do. I think there's not a single one of us that doesn't feel that way. So
thank you.
That's been a blessing and an honor for us.
Well,
so if that's what you want to leave, you are definitely, I think love is an overarching theme through this whole conversation. And that's something that you've always, from my experience, that you've always lived by.
It's been something I think that everybody in the family has that love for one another, that we feel so blessed because a lot of families aren't that fortunate. And I I'm certain families I pray for that where things are not working well, and that they have missed some of the special things, and so we're blessed to have that in our family.
Is there anything that, on the same question, that you would like us to remember about Gran?
That I remember about?
That you would like us to remember about Gran? Probably maybe the same that she.
About Grandma?
About Gran.
About Gran?
Yeah.
I guess there would be that would be a tough question because she just felt that she was privileged, that we were very, as I've said, that we were very fortunate to have children and grandchildren that loved one another, and that she felt that that we needed to do, and she needed to do anything that she could, and she was very good cook, as you know, and she would always do something, try to fix something special that each one of the kids liked. She found out who likes what, and she would try to include that in the meal. That and it was that would be tough. That was tough to do, but she did a great job of
She did.
She was. I think all of the kids, all of you guys felt that she was a good cook.
Yes.
And many of the gals had wanted her recipes, and so yeah.
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It definitely does. Yeah. I was wondering about you two as a couple. 66 years, right?
Yeah, we were in our 67th year when Peg passed away.
What do you think kind of kept your partnership strong?
We both had a strong faith, and so we both felt that we needed to share that, which is what we are called to do. And so that's the reason that any opportunities we had to share our faith, we were happy to do it. And that's the reason that we felt it was so important to get all the kids and grandchildren let them know that they were loved, by not only us, but all of the family loved one another. I mean, it just. Uh,
You you seem to you worked together, not only she was your secretary right when you met, but also later when you had your own company, you worked together a lot in your professional life.
We
And
did. We
was
worked.
that a
Yeah.
privilege for you as well? Is that
Oh
special?
yeah, that was real special because Peg then knew everything that I needed. She did a lot of the work for me. She did a lot of, and reminded me of a lot of the things that I needed to do. When she was when I was working one time, I remember I worked in my office, um, and it was must have been Fiona, I think, that was born. I think it was Fiona because we took care of Fiona a lot when she was little, and our office uh, one time when they needed for us to take care of Fiona, very small baby, and she was in a jump seat. And I remember that jump seat being right in front of Peg's office, and there's Fiona sitting there, bouncing around, and everybody that came over to say hi, and were very nice, and wanted to tease her and so on. So that was kind of a special thing for Peg.
That is special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I had one of the grandkids, I think it was Alton, asked, he was wondering what the expectation you had when you were younger, your expectation about the future, like what life would be like, 20, 40, 50 years in the future, and if things have kind of matched up.
Um, I guess that the thing that was uppermost in um, our hearts and minds at that point in time was to help all of our kids, which I've probably already said, to get to do what they wanted to do, to be the person that they wanted to be, and to help them in any way that we could do it um, to make that happen, whatever it was, and we had opportunities for each one at different times. It seems like um, uh, to feel like that we were able to communicate who we were, um, and how much they meant to us and mean to us. Yeah.
That's lovely. I've been wondering, because your life has been a long, beautiful life, and a lot of big things have happened, not only to you, but just in the world, that I'm sure at the time felt very scary and uncertain, like with current events and, different wars and different things different wars and different current events. And I know, just as a young adult right now with little children, sometimes I struggle and can kind of feel scared. And so I'm wondering um, what if you have any advice for us, like as parents of young kids.
If I have
Any advice about feeling like things
advice?
are very scary around you, because you've lived through.
The other thing, the thing that I'm most concerned about is this things that are happening in the world today, and it's scary. And at times I'm so sad that we brought our children and grandchildren into a world that has so many problems uh, all over, and it's uh, and it's going to take all of the people, all of the families, all of the everybody's going to have to sometime get together and make sure that things change. We can't continue to go the direction that we're going now. It just it you worry about the future of our kids. We as I may have mentioned before, we're worried about what we brought our kids, what we've raised them into. What they're facing and gonna face, and it's not a pretty picture. It's not something that we wanted to happen, and it's you kind of feel helpless that you can't do more to try to make that happen. Um, that's what we pray a lot about, and that God's going to have to do something. He's the good Lord is going to have to step in um, and make something happen that puts it in the right direction, turns us around, and gets enough people together that can make it happen. And I don't know what that is,
Right.
But it's going to have to trust Him.
Trust and pray.
Trust, yeah.
Okay. I've always noticed that you approach your life with a lot of acceptance and a lot of love and empathy for everyone. And I guess after having this conversation, it sounds like it has been that's been modeled for you by your parents and your grandparents. And I guess that was going to be my question, is where that came from. But have you found that to be something that came naturally to you, just kind of loving everybody and accepting everybody?
That can be.
Does that feel like it came naturally to you to just?
Yeah. I didn't have. I saw it. I didn't have to be taught it.
I see.
It was just something that I was blessed, and that we were blessed to see and have happen. It's not something that you can teach anybody. They either have it in their heart or they don't. And so we got to help people understand that, I guess.
So kind of like almost just, yes, as long as you're living by that example and you're doing that, then it is something that's just kind of picked up and
Right.
seen. Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing it. Yeah. I have always noticed that you also, you are so coherent and you're so easy to talk to and well spoken, and you're healthy, and we're very lucky to have you here with us. And I was just wondering if you have any advice for how I noticed that you like to stay busy, right? And I was just wondering what motivates you every day to keep moving, and what you do to keep your mind sharp.
That's a good question, and it's something I've felt all along, that keeping yourself healthy is super important, and you got to work at it. It's not something that's going to happen. You can let yourself get lax and not. You gotta remember it every day that you try to eat a decent diet and eat the right foods, and you try to avoid the things that aren't good for you. And I have to be careful of that. For sugar, for different things that. So I depend on my doctor, which I just visited yesterday. Super guy, and he had been very good at helping me to stay healthy, and so it's what we all have to be conscious of. and we want to get some exercise every day. I'm joined the a Lifetime Fitness place that before I left to go to Florida, I was going 3 times a week for half-hour sessions with a trainer, and it costs some money, but I think it's money well spent because I want to keep myself in good health. I have felt that uh, my legs aren't as strong as they were, and I'm not walking as uh, solidly. Maybe that's not a good word, but I feel like that I'm maybe my feet are kind of wobbly at times.
I see.
So I've got to I'm working to get that straightened out, and then to get my upper body in shape as well. Um, so I'm working on the equipment at the fitness center, and going to get back to doing that now that I'm back in town.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
That was exactly what I was asking. I was wondering too if did your dad did he live a long time? Was he also active? Or did you see someone that inspired you to put these things in practice where you stay?
My dad was always working hard. As I said, he worked on Saturdays after his RICA work to make extra money so that we could have some of the things we otherwise wouldn't have had. He was a hard worker, but yeah, he was. So he was a good example for me. That you can't wait for somebody else to do something for you. You have to get out there and do it yourself and get things started. And the one little when you talk about my dad, the one thing I think about, and this was before I became a pastor out at North Salem, there were a lay pastor, I was concerned about being able to do that. So my dad hunted a lot, and he and I would go rabbit hunting. And one day we were out hunting, and he always had good beagle dogs that would, jump the rabbits, chase the rabbits around. Anyway, that we were walking, and I was telling Dad that I was concerned about being able to handle the work and know what to say at the church. And the one thing he said, he will give you the words. My dad didn't go to church every Sunday, but he had a belief, but he didn't. He made sure we did, but he didn't. But that's something that's been motivating me, I guess, as well.
Yeah, that's just one little sentence that's kind of carries a lot of weight. It's
very much so.
It's beautiful. Yeah. You have had a lot of because you've had the privilege of living this long, you've had a lot of loss too. You've lost siblings, and you've lost a child, and you've lost your partner. And I was just wondering, I guess, how you have coped with that, and how
I have focused it.
How you've coped with it. Like, what do you do? What brings you comfort when you would it be your faith? I'm sorry, I didn't know how to ask that question.
Well, and maybe I'm not sure what.
Just losing siblings, and it just seems really hard. And I don't.
What?
Losing your siblings and losing the people around you. Your parents,
I think that I've been very fortunate that I've felt the need to be a friend to everybody, and to help my friends if they needed help, and um, um, try to do that every day with whoever it might be. I have, I've been blessed with a lot of friends, a lot of good friends.
Yes.
That if I needed anything, I know it was right there.
Okay.
From not from just one person, it was from every one of them would come and help me do whatever I needed done. So that's a good feeling.
Having a good support system.
A good support system is so important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do for joy? What brings you joy? What makes you laugh?
Well, I enjoy some programs that help me laugh. One of them is a comedian, Mike Davis, that's on TV, and whenever I get a chance, I'll watch him. He just has a way. He's a Christian, and he is so he's bringing his faith into his comedy, and does a great job at it. And he's been a speaker for all over I think he's been in different countries. He's just been um, recognized as a great speaker. He has spoke to promise keepers. There's one of the groups that 5,000 promise keepers. The group that met that called him to be a speaker, and he has spoken for them. And he has a story about that one of his. Am I talking too much here? Then
you can't talk too much.
Okay. Anyway,
no, not at all. I'm listening.
He has a story that where he was speaking to a bunch of promise keepers, and he was talking about um, your dad, who is your to have respect for your dad and to spend time with your dad and do do the things the father and son should and could do together, and how important that was, and how important it was to him, and his message was so strong that the men there felt that, and he could and fathers and sons were together at the Promise Keepers, and so he said, uh, "Look at your son, and son, look at your father, and tell him you love him," and which is a hard thing for men to do, and anyway, there was just a feeling where all of these men were trying their best to say to their father, or the father to the son, that you love them. And some of them were successful and some weren't. But there was one guy that was down in the front that couldn't wait to get all the way up to the back of the assembly hall to hug his dad and tell him that he loved him. And so it was very moving message. And this guy does a fantastic job of helping people understand that they got to be vocal and tell somebody that you love them, not just think that they know, but to tell them how important that is.
That's a beautiful message. Yeah, it's a really good reminder. We kind of sometimes can take advantage and assume people know how we feel.
Yeah, you think that they should know that you love them because you do things for them, but that's not enough.
It's not enough.
You got to voice the words.
It's true. You really quickly, I wanted to ask you about traveling, because we mentioned it about in the Coast Guard, and then I know that you've done some traveling with Gran, and I was just curious if you've had any specific places that were your favorite, or
Uh,
if you have had any experiences you wanted to share?
well, some of the best trips that we drove cross country from Columbus, Ohio, or Cincinnati at the time, maybe to my brother Don that lived in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
We would drive to Don's and visit with him and Berta, uh, or we would start out down in San Diego, which there was some of our relatives that lived down there, and we would visit in San Diego and then drive up the highway. Forget what route it is, driving um, from San Diego up the beach, up the whatever you call it, all the way up to L.A.
Okay.
So we enjoyed that. Well, we enjoyed one time that we went to uh, oh to um, what's the name of the mountain? I don't know. It's a mountain that
Okay.
um, can't think of it offhand. But anyway, we enjoyed the trip there. We went to Tennessee once and spent time there. We just had a number of short trips that we made. One, we went to Rome, I guess was one of the special times. I won a trip to Rome in my business. A company, Material Distributors, had offices in Cincinnati and Columbus. And if you purchased a certain amount of their products over a year, you won a trip. So I won a trip to Rome. And so I paid $5,000 for Peg to go with me. So we had a trip to Rome. We left Cincinnati and flew straight to Rome and landed in Rome and they had a champagne breakfast for us in Rome. But it was great. That's where I learned that I liked wine, because that's all you had when you ate dinner. The wine was on the table, and so I acquired a taste for wine at that point in time, and still like a nice glass of wine. And I'm not a connoisseur. I don't know that much about what I'm drinking. I just know
you just have to know that you
enjoy
like it.
Yeah. So
that's a neat story.
and I mean, but there's also a limit.
Of course.
One or two glasses is all you need to have.
Yeah. That's special.
Yeah.
Are there any stories that you wanted to share that you had on your mind that we haven't talked about? And there's no pressure at all. Just
yeah, I'm trying to think of my. If I had time, if I had taken time to think about some of the things that happened with our kids at times, there would be something,
we
because
can do
with
that.
all the kids, there's always something that was going on. Let's see. I guess I can't pull something together real quick here that.
We can do that another time too. This doesn't have to be one thing and over. We can have more conversations. I can leave this with my sisters and you can talk to them.
Okay, if I have other thoughts
you might have some things pop up that you think, I wish we
Yeah.
would have talked about that. So we can do that a different time. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't forgetting or not mentioning something that you had on your mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. The one thing I haven't mentioned is that sports is a very important part of our life. The Cincinnati Reds have been something that I grew up going to Crosley Field with my dad. He would take me to Crosley Field, and I don't know about probably took Jim and Donnie as well at times. But getting to experience that was really special. Um, Now it's a Great American Ballpark, I think is the name of it now. So Crosley Field was a great memory. Um, uh,
What other things do you enjoy doing, or have you always enjoyed doing, like hobbies and things that you're interested in?
um, I'm um, playing golf is probably the thing that I enjoy doing the most. Playing softball is the thing that I played a lot of softball. Got to the point here in the last couple of years that I knew that I'm too competitive, and if I play softball and hit a single, I'm going to try to make a double out of it, and I'm going to fall on my face. And I did once, and uh, banged up my shoulder. So I decided it was time to quit playing softball and play golf more. So I did that, and I loved the game, just like I loved playing softball. And so every chance I get, I've got some friends, a couple, we have a foursome that we go out on, and they just let me know since I'm back that we're going to play this Thursday. We'll go play golf, and we play 9 holes. We sometimes will play 18 and on a special occasion. Our granddaughter Ashley has a Drill for Life charity that she has helped make happen, and it's very important, where they drill wells in Africa for areas that they don't have any fresh water. They get water out of a river or out of a lake that is not healthy, and so they always have different diseases. So anyway, they have gone to um, Africa for, I don't know, maybe last 6 years or more. This group, and drill. It costs $5,000 to drill a well. So they've drilled a number of them for different villages that have no fresh water, and then there's a big celebration, of course, when they get to the water. Sometimes it's not always successful, so you have to drill more than one well to get the water that they need. So that's one charity that I especially like, that and Special Olympics, and some of those charities are the ones that I try to support the most, and so I'm proud of Ashley for doing that, because it's for being a part of that, because it has changed the lives of many people.
Absolutely. You were able to travel to Haiti with Aunt Kathy, right?
Kathy and I were fortunate enough to go to Haiti. We went on 2 medical mission trips to Haiti, and there were 7 nurses and 4 doctors that went with the group from Cincinnati, and we joined a group from one of the Carolinas that started this mission, and we joined them and became a part. And Kathy and I went for 2 years, and then unfortunately, after that, there were problems on the borders, and it was not safe to go. Kathy wanted to go before she passed away. She wanted to go one more time, but we were never able to do that. But we went, and the nurses would we would have people would come that had never seen a doctor before, and they would try to treat as many. They would come lined up, and then when we would come in the morning, we would have maybe 100 people lined up out there waiting to come and see a nurse or a doctor with many different kinds of problems, because the women had never had any care that they should have had. So those 2 years were very special for us, and it was great that Kathy and I were able to share that with one another.
My battery was getting low, so I wanted to just make sure that it wasn't messing with the video. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just not to distract you. I think that unless we think of anything else that you wanted to talk about, we can take a break, either be done for today, or we could do some later if you think of something. But like I said, we
Okay.
can do this again. This is not like a
Not
one-time
the
thing.
end of it.
This is not even close to the end.
Okay,
You
but
got plenty of time to talk to us about all of this.
let's do that, and
take a
that'll
little-
give me some time to put some thoughts together
Perfect. We'll
for
take a little
another
break.
time.